All right, let's start. We're going to start here with these questions, okay? We're turning, if it gives us a percent, we're going to turn it into a decimal or a fraction. If it gives us a decimal, we're going to turn it into a percent or a fraction, okay? But notice right here what it says about fractions. What does it say? Simplify if necessary, okay? So you need to make sure you are simplifying your fractions, and that means to reduce them, okay? All right. So let's start here with 2%. If I'm given a percent means what? Per 100, okay? So if I have 2%, how would I write that as a fraction per 100? 2 over 100, right? Now how do I say this fraction correctly? 200ths, right? That is also said the same for my decimal. So my decimal would be 0.02 for 200ths, which means the same as 200ths. Now, going back to this fraction, is this fraction simplified? It is not. That fraction is not simplified. So how do I simplify it? It'll be 1/50th, but how do I make it 1/50th? Divided by 2. So we're going to divide the top and bottom, or scale it down by dividing by 2. So I end up with 1 over 50. Now, you can also put that in Desmos. If you know your 2% is 200ths, that's 2 over 100. It will give you the decimal 200ths, and if you hit this button, convert to a fraction, it simplifies it for you to 1/50th. All right, let's do this one. It says 7/10. So when we're given a decimal, I like to start with turning it into a fraction. How do you say this decimal correctly? 7/10. So what would that look like as a fraction? 7/10, because it said 7/10. Now, percent means what? Per 100. Is this over 100? No. Can I make it over 100? Yeah, I could scale it up by multiplying by what? 10. Making the bottom 100, and what would the top be? 70. So that would be 70%. Now, another way to turn a decimal into a fraction, a decimal into a percent means per 100. So you could take that decimal and times it by 100 to get this as for your percent. And I can show you that here. If you have 0.7, whoops, let me clear all this out. 0.7, and you multiply that by 100, what do we get? 70. That is our percent. Okay. Oops. So this one, 45/100ths. We're going to start with writing it as a fraction. 45/100ths as a fraction would look like what? 45 over 100. So as a percent, what is this as a percent? 45%. Can this fraction be simplified? Yep. You could either put it in Desmos, or you could just divide it by 5, top and bottom, and you end up with 9 over 20. All right, 3/8. 3/8 is one of those ones you're definitely going to need Desmos for, because does 8 scale to 100? No. Why would I want to scale it to 100? Because you can get the percent. Yeah, so I can get the percent. So 3/8, what I would do is take my calculator and do 3 over 8, and that gives me this decimal, doesn't it? 375. So my decimal is my decimal is 0.375, 0.375, and then to turn that into a percent, I could multiply that by 100. When I multiply that by 100, it moves the decimal 2 jumps to be between the 7 and the 5. So then my percent is 37.5%. And I can show you that in Desmos. If you take this decimal, 0.375 times 100. Whoops, I forgot my 5 here. There we go. It makes this, okay, it makes that. All right. Let's look at 95% here. We have a percent, so let's turn it into a fraction. Percent means per 100, so what's this going to look like as a fraction? 95 over 100. So what would that be as a decimal? Yeah, 95 hundredths. Can this fraction be simplified? Yep. I could divide them both by 5. And I end up with 19 over 20. And you could put that in Desmos, 95 hundredths, hit the fraction bar, and it'll simplify it for you. Okay? All right, this 1/6, this was a confusing one for some people. You're definitely going to need Desmos for ones like this. Why would I need Desmos? Yeah, 6 doesn't scale to 100 with a whole number, does it? Okay, so let's put 1/6 in Desmos. 1 over 6. So what's my decimal? Yeah, it's repeating, right? So if you end up with a repeating decimal, okay, 0.166, you can just put repeating over the 6 like that. Yes?
What if it eventually stops repeating?
Well, that one, the calculator rounded it for you. But if it does eventually stop repeating, then just go to like 2 place values behind the decimal and round it. Okay? All right, so then I can take this and multiply it by 100, moving the decimal 2 jumps, and my percent ends up being 16.6 repeating percent. Okay? All right, so that's those questions. Other fractions that you might see on your test would be fractions like 1/3 or 2/3. Okay? 1/3 as a decimal, 0.33 repeating, and as a percent is 33 repeating percent. 2/3 is just double that, 0.66 repeating, or 66 repeating percent. So you might see those on your test tomorrow. Okay? All right, let's turn the page. Let's look at these questions. All right. Old Taylor Swift. Okay.
Oh no.
All right.
Didn't want to.
95 out of 125 people are only attending football games to see Taylor Swift. What percent of people attend the football games to see Taylor? What is it asking us to find? It's asking us to find the percent. Okay, so if we're using this table, okay, we know that in this percent column, percent means per 100, so it has to be over 100. What we're trying to find is this number that's over 100 to get our percent. Now, we're given a part and a whole amount. 125 people were asked, and 95 of those said that they were going to see Taylor. So that 95 is a part. The 125 is a whole. I'm going to use, because 100, I'm going to put it over here, because I can see clearly that 125 doesn't scale to 100. So I'm going to put this as 95 over 125 over here and leave this space to reduce this fraction to get a fraction that goes to 100. So to do that, I am going to divide the 95 and the 125 by something. What could I divide them by? 5. So if we divide them by 5, I end up with 19 over 25, right? Now, does 25 go to 100? Yeah, how do I get 25 to go to 100? Times it by 4. So then what am I going to do to 19? Times it by 4. And we end up with what? 76. So our percent is 76%. So 76% of people wanted to attend the football games to see Taylor. Not to see the Chiefs, but to see Taylor Swift. All right. Number 8, it says of the 300 students in Pod 1, 25% owe recess. How many students owe recess in Pod 1? All right. So we're given what for the percent? We're given 25. So we're going to put in the percent column 25 over 100. Now this 300, is that a part or a total? What is that? It is a whole amount. So I can see that 300 and 100, I can go directly there. So I'm going to just not use this one over here. And I'm just going to use it like this. And I'm looking for the part of students that owe recess. So I have this fraction, 25 over 100, and I want to make an equivalent fraction to something over 300. So to do that, I am going to do something to 100 to get 300. What am I going to do? Times it by 3. So what does that mean I do to 25? Times it by 3. So how many students owe the recess out of that pod? 75 students, not percent. The percent is 25%, but the number of students is 75. Okay? It's a lot of students. All right. Number 9. It says, Miss Montalongo paid $49 for a new streaming service. This, and when it says a word like this, it's referring to the number it said previously. Okay? So this is 70% of the original price. What was the original price of the streaming service? All right, so starting in our percent column, what is the percent that we're given here? 70%. So we write 70 over 100. And then it says, Miss Montalongo paid $49 for the new service, and this is 70%. So the 49 is equal to what? 70, so that is a part. Now, you can clearly see that 49 and 70 aren't going to go to each other, are they? So I'm going to put 49 over here. And I'm going to simplify this fraction to get a fraction that I can scale up to a fraction over here that would be equivalent to find this original price. So, what can 70 and 100 both be divided by? 10. So let's divide them by 10. 70 divided by 10 is what? 7. 100 divided by 10 is what? 10. Now, does 7 go to 49? Yeah. I can multiply 7 by what? 7. So that means I'll multiply my denominator by 7, which is what? 70. So what was the original price of the service? $70. Okay? $70. Not doll hairs, dollars. Okay. Question number 10. Says, Mr. Reyes went to Academy and purchased a new weight set. He had a coupon for 20% off. How much money did Mr. Reyes save in the original if the original price was set at $120? Okay. So, what is my percent? What is my percent? 20. So, in the percent column, we write 20 over 100. Then it says that the original price was what? 120. So is that a part or a whole? It's a whole because it is the original price. Now, I'm going to put 120 over here because 100 doesn't really scale to 120 unless you use a decimal. So we're going to simplify this fraction, 20 over 100. Divided by what? Could I use something bigger? What about 20? Could I divide both of them by 20? Yeah? So if I divide both of them by 20, I get 5. Divide this by 20. Not 5, sorry. Not 5 there. Whoop, whoop, whoop. That would be 1. And this one would be 5. Right? Could I use something different? Could I use 10? Yeah, I could have used 10. Probably would have been easier to use 10, right? All right. How many times does 5 go into 120?
22 times. 22 times.
Is it 22 or 24?
24.
24. Let's check. I could do 120 divided by 5. 24, right? Okay. So that means, what am I going to multiply 5 by to get to 120? I'm going to multiply it by 24. So what am I going to multiply 1 by? 24. So how much money did he get taken off? $24. So how much is he going to actually pay then? $96 because he would subtract 120 minus 24. But he said the question asked how much did he save? So he saved $24 with the coupon. Okay? All right. Now, we could have used 10 here, and we would have gotten 2 and 10, and that would have been easier. We could have multiplied by 12. We still would have got 24. Okay? All right, number 11. It says, of the 32 teachers, Mr. Brumley hired 75% of them and lived less than... okay, hold on. Of the 32 teachers Mr. Brumley hired, 75% of them live less than 5 miles from the school. How many teachers that Mr. Brumley hired live less than 5 miles from the school? Okay, so let's start with our percent. What's our percent? 75%. So we put 75 over 100. And how many total teachers do we have? We have a total of 32. So 100 doesn't go to 32 unless we use a decimal. So let's put 32 over here for a whole amount. And let's scale this down. 75 and 100 could both be divided by what? 25. So we're going to divide both of these by 25. $75 divided by 25 is 3. 100 divided by 25 is 4. Now, 4 does go to 32. What would I have to multiply it by? 8. So then 3 times 8 is what? 24. So how many teachers that he hired live less than 5 miles? 24.